Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome into the show. Glad you're with us. We've got a good one coming up. A couple of conversations. One, we're going to talk a little 5 for 5. Matt Stevens covers Illinois, but also is a longtime Big Ten and SEC writer. Really is kind of a student of this. And so, we've had Matt on before. Matt is always very thorough. And so we're going to have that conversation coming up here about this. Some of this crazy, again, we got guys who have actually worn an NFL or NBA uniform are going to be on college campuses this year. Let that sink in. And yeah, we're all scratching our heads. So anyway, we've got that coming up. Also, for the first time on the show, Jacob Konstaninka, he's going to talk a little Michigan State Spartans. New coach up there again, but Pat Fitzgerald, who, look, had some nice success. The former Northwestern and NFL star went back to Northwestern and really made the Wildcats relevant for many years until he had the stuff behind the scenes in the locker room, led to his ouster. He's been cleared of that. And so now he's coming to Michigan State and has come on with a real vengeance because hit the portal hard and grabbed some players that other guys, other schools, other coaches were really going after. And so let's see how things are going to shape up there in East Lansing. We'll talk with him here in a couple of moments. Hey, if today's your birthday, happy birthday. You share it with Marvin Harrison, the star great wide receiver, turning 54 today. 7-time NBA champion Robert Horry is 56. Albert Bell, the former Cleveland Slugger, is 60. Cornelius Bennett, Biscuit, former Bills linebacker, 61 today. And one of the all-time great relievers in Major League Baseball history, Raleigh Fingers, turns 80 today. 25th of August, you also share a birthday with the tennis legend, Althea Gibson. She was born on this day in 1927. Speaking of tennis, we're going to focus a lot with Matt Perkins talking U.S. Open coming up tomorrow on the show. A couple of headlines for you before we get to our first interview guest. In Major League Baseball, big night for the Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh, who has really stumbled this season after his breakout campaign in 2025. Remember, he was the runner-up for the American League MVP award last year when he led the majors with 60 home runs and then had 125 RBIs. Well, this year, the starting backstop came into Monday's game with the Phillies, hitting just 159 with 14 homers. But last night, at least for one night, he was back to 2025 form. 3 for 3, 3 homers, all to right field, 4 RBI. Seattle putting an end to the Phillies' 9-game win streak, a 9-2 victory. By the way, Raleigh's average raising up to 167 with that 3-hit night. Over the WNBA, a record-setting night for the Dream's Angel Reese. She broke the W's single-game rebounding record with 26, while also breaking the league's season record for rebounds as the Dream beat LA 78-71. She surpassed Shamiqua Holtzclife's record of 24 rebounds set in May of 2003 for Washington. The Dream star now 458 rebounds this season. That's 7 more than Asia Wilson's record that she set back in 2024. Reese, 11 points as well, so she secured her WNBA leading 27th double-double of the season on a basket with just 13.9 seconds left in the game. By the way, the Dream love to see the Sparks on the schedule. They have now beaten them 9 straight times. In a matchup of the top 2 teams in the league, Cecilia Zandel-Cellini scored 8 of her 18 points in the fourth quarter. Gabby Williams added 15. Golden State over Minnesota for the first time in franchise history, 80-66. Golden State had been 0-9 against the Lynx in the regular season and playoffs since joining the WNBA last year. Wow. Time for today's Moment of Awe, presented by Sports IQ with Larry Smith and the major leaguer who conquered lightning. That's right. It happened 107 years ago this week. Ray Caldwell was known more for his love of alcohol and parties than anything else, one manager lamenting what his young pitcher might have done with a little more discipline. He showed some fire in his outing pitching for the Cleveland Indians against the Philadelphia A's this week back in 1919. Caldwell, a known spitballer even after it was outlawed, was 1 out away from a complete game when a bolt of lightning hit nearby, sending him to the ground and knocking him unconscious for several minutes. Caldwell got up, refused to leave the game, and recovered enough to get that final out. Amazingly, 17 days later, he threw a no-hitter against the Yankees, and a year later helped Cleveland to the World Series title. What a story. Remember the name, Ray Caldwell, the lightning thief, the electrifying Ray Caldwell, gets today's Moment of Awe the hard way.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Sports IQ with Larry Smith continues right now. And one of the things we've been talking about quite a bit is this new 5-for-5 rule. Basically, red shirts go out the window. Players have 5 years to complete their eligibility, and then you're done. You can't be 26 years old and going for a ninth season, although we're now, of course, as expected, it's the era of the legal challenge. We're going to continue to see people try to say, hey, let's, we still want to keep playing. And we saw that a couple of places just last week. The most recent that happened, I think, Thursday or Friday. Jackson Kohler, who was the 4-year player, happened on Thursday, 4-year power forward for Michigan State, actually out of eligibility, played for the NBA Utah Jazz's summer league team out west, and that was in July. And then in August, because of this ruling, he all of a sudden is a 5th year, and he chooses BYU over Kentucky. So here's a guy who actually did play for a pro team in the U.S. briefly, somewhat, and then now he's going to be back on a college campus. Okay, Matt Stevens of Illini Guys. He's the senior football writer and analyst in his more than 20-year career. He's also been a beat writer for Purdue, Auburn, Mississippi State, among other places, and he joins us now on the show because he is a student of this. Matt, good to see you. Good to talk to you again. This is it's insane, and sadly, I don't know if we will ever get to the end of the legal challenges and find somewhere where there is a line in the sand that people respect and say, this is it, this is enough.
Yeah, Larry, I don't know if I'm breaking the wall here on Sports HQ, but you are my boss at Illini Guys too. And I think you know me well enough now to know that I'm pretty much the most pro player in all of these legal challenges that you'll ever find. On this one, I got to say I'm kind of with the NCAA on this one. Like I understand the 2022 class kind of feeling like they didn't get something that other classes are getting, but you didn't get my theory. Here's my opinion on it first, which is I don't believe the 2022 class, when they signed to go play for somebody as incoming freshmen, were promised 5 years. So you're not getting, you weren't like being rejected something that you were promised when you showed up at college. And I do think that the only thing that I can tell that they are kind of getting rejected by is that, I cover Illinois now, as you know, but like Brett Bielema was kind of hinting to some of the, exiting seniors, hey, you might have another year left. Like, just be prepared. I'm not telling you to not, enter the draft. I'm not telling you to not do your workouts. I'm not telling you to do anything. But like, if we tell you, hey, you can come back, we'd like to know if you'd like to come back. And he did that with 2 players and talked about it as, recently as last week, that, Hank Beatty and Melvin Priestley have still been in communication with Illinois about what that situation could involve. But the deadline is insane for Illinois at this point, from an academic standpoint, from a roster standpoint, and all those things. But yeah, I don't think that, my point being, Larry, is that I think I'm about as pro player as you can get. And I don't know if this is publicly popular. I really don't. I think that there is a delineation line, at least for the general public that likes to view things from a 30,000 foot viewpoint, that there's a delineation point between college and professional. And even though the college players now are getting adequately, compensated like they should have been 20 years ago, they're still not professional athletes. And I think that we understand that delineation. But for there to be a tweet this weekend about a Cleveland Browns player like warming up for his preseason game while in the college transfer portal, which I still don't completely understand, because I always thought the school had to put you in the portal. You didn't put yourself in the portal. Like, that's kind of blown up, that that kind of, that dishonesty, like throughout the entire transfer portal process. If you really want me to be honest about it, is that I do think that the player had all of the control in the transfer portal and his representation in the school. Even if they didn't want to put him in there, he was going in. It blew that out of the water. But like, to see that tweet was just ridiculous to me. And I think it's an indication of 2 things. One is that I think the NCAA always thought, and still does think, that they're going to get this appeal. They're going to win these appeals. And I'm not sure that they're wrong on that, because in the 10th Circuit in Colorado, they did get a stay, and they're pretty confident that they're going to get an appeal, more or less because the judge that actually ended up, giving them the basically that was, I don't know if they started it, whether it was in Ohio or in Colorado, however you want to do the dateline on this. She kind of had to clarify her opinion because she realized what she had said and went, no. Like, you guys aren't college athletes. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to go through all of these, like the rules that like you have to pay the money back and then you have to do all those things. Those still apply. Like, you have to figure that out. But I'm just giving you an injunction to say, hey, you might be eligible for this 5th year if you can, get through all of those things. She basically laid it out to where I can tell you that Illinois has taken 2 players where their 4 years of eligibility were over, and Joshua Lorick, the wide receiver, and specifically was the first one out of Incarnate Word. He put his name in the portal when he had no eligibility left and knew nobody was going to talk to him because he had no eligibility left. But on the chance that the 5th year actually come to pass, he could go somewhere. And so he did all of the stuff just in case, because he knew he wasn't going to probably go to the NFL. And therefore, now he's on Illinois' roster as number 87 as a wide receiver. So I don't have really a problem with that one. That's just kind of being smart and having a backup plan. But once I think that you've entered the NFL, whether it's been signed as an undrafted free agent or signed or you're as a draft pick, like I think Dan Lanning put it really, really well, the Oregon head coach. Like, I know what the delineation is between college and professional, and it's did you declare for the draft and sign a contract? At that point, you can't come back for us. I do think it was interesting that Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame did use the academic component to, I don't think I can bring anybody back because I don't think I can get them into our grad school program here at Notre Dame within 3 days. Like, that's not how this works, fellas. And so at the very, very least, I think you have people talking about how this deadline and I was glad Brett Bielema said it to us locally that, I have to have my roster in the day before my first game. Mm-hmm. And I can have deletions off that roster. Like, again, Josh Lorick, if this whole thing comes to pass, he's not going to be eligible, but I can't have additions. And they play on September 3rd. He can't have an addition to his roster past the night of September 2nd. So the date of all this just, I think, was intentional as well by the NCAA. And I was told by an agent, Larry, that this has more to do with trying to figure out what we're going to do with basketball than it does with football, because they thought the dates with football wasn't going to make it work and wasn't going to make it viable. But basketball, you can have kids enroll in the fall and see what happens. And then by the time October and maybe even early November rolls around, maybe they're eligible. So that's where I think this is headed.
Yeah. And it's funny too. You're right. I think for football, it's really chancy in a lot of ways. And someone else we spoke with on the show last week had a great point that said, look, what happens if you bring somebody in and you're a contender for the national championship, and then later on you find out that that player is not eligible. Well, if you played that player, you run the risk of having to forfeit those games. It takes you out of the mix, and so it is a slippery slope. There's no precedent for this. There's nothing to say, oh no. In XVY back in 1979, this happened. That doesn't exist in this case.
No, and there's 2 levels of precedent here, Larry, because there's been 2 levels of written correspondence with the NCAA legal counsel to all of the compliance departments in FBS football that, hey, we told you to, like, we're not. It's kind of like, Larry, you have kids. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm hoping that you'll make a responsible decision when I give you all of the facts, right? Like, that's kind of what 2 different levels of written correspondence has been from the NCAA legal counsel. We're not telling you to not sign these guys and put them on your roster, but if you do, like, the only thing I could think of, though, from a precedent standpoint, Larry, is that Alabama didn't have to forfeit the games they played Charles Bediako last year, Alabama basketball. I don't know if you'll necessarily have to forfeit games, but I do think it is a roster disruption that a lot of college football coaches don't want to have, where, okay, I can bring a kid in right at the last minute at either the beginning of September or the end of August, and by Halloween, he's now ineligible and he's now, what I mean? Like, you've got a whole bunch of guys right now that are essentially thinking they're either going to be starters or on the 2 deep. And if you bring somebody in at the end of September and now he's not, like, now you've disrupted that, but that's cool. We've got months to figure that out. But then a month later, when the NCAA might get its complete, whether it's in the 10th Circuit where they're trying to get that appeal, where they have the stay right now, or in these state courts, if the NCAA wins all of these appeals, suddenly these players now have to be taken off that roster and they're no longer eligible. And that's another disruption to a locker room in the middle of a season that I don't think any coach really wants.
Yeah. You mentioned Brett Bielema in his comments a few days ago when he talked to you and everyone there in the media at Illinois. I know he's been obviously a veteran coach. I mean, he's, a couple of decades now, head coach, and been around the game for a long time. He's on some national committees, NCAA committees. Did he give any indication in terms of what he's hearing in committee meetings with coaches in terms of anything new on the horizon or anything to stem the tide of this or anything like that?
Sure did, because Brett Bielema is on the committee for the American Football Coaches Association that, quite frankly, Larry, created the ghost transfer rule that's been blown out of the water based off of all these state courts, including the one in Louisiana, right? Mm-hmm. So I asked him specifically, I said, Brett, are you frustrated by the idea that I know that you worked for a year? You and I know Clark Lee is on that committee now, the Vanderbilt head coach. You guys worked on this for a year to produce something that you could hand to the NCAA competition committee and say, hey, let's put this together because we're tired of these ghost transfers. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, he says, because here's the thing. We were told in January that 5 for 5 wasn't happening. And to quote Brett Bielema, they can say whatever they want, but we were told in January it was not happening, which is why they didn't really move forward. Specifically, Illinois didn't really move forward with a Hank Beatty or with a Melvin Priestley. And they didn't. So that's that. He says that's what we were told. He says when we put together the ghost transfer legislation, we had good intentions of doing what we wanted to do, which is the 6-game suspension, the 20% of your football budget or athletic budget penalty, all of those things. We had good intentions for wanting to do that. Oh, by the way, this 22 class is the last one that's going to be able to basically pursue this. So the ghost transfer rule that the AFCA put through the competition committee, that's going to be good beyond this. So you know what I mean? If somebody wants to transfer, they're going to have to do it through the window. There's not going to be a state court in Louisiana that's going to create a 1-week window for the transfer portal, which again, I don't really understand, because the NCAA, I think if they wanted to really dig their heels in, they could have gone, hey, no, we're not opening up a transfer portal. You have to be a ghost transfer and figure out how to do that yourself, and you're going to risk that penalty. Because I'm glad you brought that up, Larry, because I think Brett Bielema was glad that somebody like me brought it up, because he was like, hey, look, why can't we retroactively suspend a coach for 6 games if he brings one of these guys in through the transfer portal? And I don't know whether they can or they can't, but I know these coaches have massive egos, but they like themselves an awful lot too. And I don't know whether or not they want to risk themselves getting a 6-game suspension and costing their athletic budget 20% of their revenue. So I don't, if you're Lane Kiffin and you're combing through the new transfer portal for a week, you better be answering to the Louisiana governor why he's got, less of an athletic budget at LSU, and you're not going to be on the sideline for 6 games. That's a definite possibility, especially if the NCAA wins this appeal.
Right. It's funny that all this could have been avoided. The NCAA had just said, listen, give every player $500 a month as a stipend. 8 years ago, maybe we wouldn't be here.
Well, now, and there's also, Larry, I don't mean to get long-winded here, but there's a conspiracy theory out there that specifically kind of points to the idea that the NCAA intentionally didn't do this for the class of 2022, because that would have been easy too. That would have been easy to just say, hey, the class of 2022, incoming guy, the high school class in 2022, you all get that 5th year too. That would have ended all of this, Larry. I think the reason they didn't do that was they wanted something that was going to get trapped into the court systems, whether it's the state court or the federal court. And then a month from now or a month and a half from now, they can go back to Congress and go, hey, you see all this chaos that is just happening around us? You got to help us. You got to make this federal legislation. I don't know that the NCAA has ever had that much forethought, or its leadership has had that much forethought, but there is a conspiracy theory out there that was intentional for them to be able to say, hey, look at how many, billable hours we're shelling out to our lawyers here for something like this. So I can't, so you need to help us out, because this is just creating so much chaos that we can't handle.
Yeah. All right. Up against a break right now. Matt Stevens, Atlanta guys, appreciate your time. Thanks so much. Hey, more sports coming up after this.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices on airline tickets are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts with over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. The only way to learn more is make a free call. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next trip. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next trip.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
Welcome back here to the show. Glad you're still with us here on this Tuesday. If you think that world events don't play a role in sports, you need to think again. Down at LSU, women's basketball player Kate Koval, who's Ukrainian, has decided to leave the team after the Tigers and head coach Kim Mulkey signed Russian Anna Maneva. She's a 6'5" post player who previously played professionally with NBA Moscow. Of course, as you know, Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2022. It's a war that has now dragged on for the last 4 years. And Koval said, I'm out. I'm not playing with her. So there you go. A couple of the NFL notes here. One deal in the NFL on Monday. After losing Jaden Higgins for the season to an ACL tear, Houston working a deal with New England. The Texans get Patriots receiver Kayshon Boutte in exchange for safety Jalen Reed at a draft pick. That's according to The Ringer. By the way, that draft pick, ESPN says, will be a 7th-round pick. Boutte, who was 24, set career highs with 43 receptions and 589 yards in 2024. Caught a career high 6 touchdowns in 2025. So again, the Texans trying to make up for that injury. And then, okay, the Cleveland Browns. So it never fails. They find a way to get themselves into the headlines, and they find a way to get our hand up to our head and our fingers to begin scratching. The Browns have named their starting quarterback for the upcoming season, and they are going with former Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson over Shedeur Sanders. The decision came 2 days after Watson was booed by home fans during a preseason game and then subsequently apologized for calling the reaction disrespectful. The Browns open the regular season on the road against Jacksonville coming up on September 13th. Producer Tony, you and I we were texting about this. We talked about it before the show. It is just, you just go, geez. Is Watson even going to be in town in 2027 with that contract?
No, absolutely not. I mean, so why are you picking him to be the starter? This is not only the head scratching thing for this season, but next season. Look, Larry, this trade is probably the worst trade ever. I'm not even going to say in just football. This may have been the worst trade ever in all of sports. But you've got a quarterback that you just named the starter who can't get the job done, who the home fans can't stand, and you're still going to go with him this year. I mean, what are they thinking in Cleveland? And if you're the guy, that took over this job, are you going, what did I get myself into? What was I thinking about to come here? I mean, there's absolutely no reason. He's got such a contract that if he's on the roster, Larry, next March 13th, then the Browns owe him for 2029, I believe it is, $200 million, more on top of the $230 million guaranteed they've already paid him.
Oh.
So it is an absolute lock. Set it in stone. Telling you it's going to happen right now. On March 12th, 11th, hopefully somebody in the Browns sets an alarm clock to make sure they don't miss the date, and they're cutting Deshaun Watson. So you just named a starter to somebody who is getting cut next spring.
Yeah, which makes no sense whatsoever. And it's to your point, I guess they're like, oh, let's squeeze whatever we can out of him. I guess that's the rationale. I guess I don't know. That makes sense to me. But to your point, now you have two young quarterbacks in Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. Again, everyone feels that Sanders has a leg up in that you drafted last year to see who would pan out. Here's a chance to build on Sanders being the starter at the end of last season and continue to see if he is your quarterback of the future. Because listen, the one thing they change up there in Cleveland is quarterbacks more than anybody else.
Right. Since 1999, they've drafted 5 quarterbacks in the first round. That has included Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, Whedon was there, Tim Couch was there. None of them panned out. Absolutely none. Now, let's rub some more salt into the wounds of Browns fans. Sorry, Browns fans. You can turn away. You can stop listening now. The 3 picks you gave up to the Houston Texans later became Jordan Davis, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Brian Thomas Jr. That's a defensive tackle, a running back, and a wide receiver. All of them have been to the Pro Bowl. All of them are incredible players that you gave up for Deshaun Watson. Look, Cleveland, you go back to the drawing board, fellas.
Oh, that hurts me. I'm not even a Browns fan.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And then, like you said, not to mention the money you spent out, and for a guy to sit on the bench and look good in a warm-up, basically, is what's basically happened. Okay. Listen, Cleveland fans, at least you're getting a new dome stadium. Hey! Back with more. Stay with us. Producer Tony is with our next guest.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And, we continue this countdown. Man, we are so close to the start of college football season. And thankfully, it begins this weekend. And Saturday, I know there are college football fans coast to coast looking forward to it. We're joined today by Jacob Konstaninka. He is the Michigan State Spartans beat writer for MSU on SI. Jacob, welcome to the show. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Ready. Again, you brought up week 0. I'm excited to sit down and watch some games on Saturday, and MSU plays the next Friday night. It's exciting.
Yeah, you get the big debut there on Friday night. For Michigan State. How is that feeling? How are things going? New coach this year, Pat Fitzgerald, coming back into the college football ranks. He had a lot of success bringing Northwestern back from a program that, most people have figured might never win more than 4 games in a season ever, and brought them to Rose Bowls, brought them back to prominence, brought them into some top 10 rankings. What's the feeling around the program having Pat right now as the head guy?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was skeptical when they hired him because, again, the way things ended with him at Northwestern, even the way he was fired aside, they won 4 games in those past 2, in his final 2 seasons there. But as you get to know him, you hear him talk a little bit. He's bringing, I think, the proper energy that I think fans wanted at Michigan State. Because again, the previous coach, Jonathan Smith, never really connected with the fan base whatsoever. Like, he was more, his approach to things was a little more mild mannered. You didn't really get a lot of emotion out of him. And, when you're talking about Michigan State athletics, you had Mark D'Antonio, who, again, was a fiery guy. You have Tom Izzo, who certainly is a fiery guy. Never really connected with the fans here. Then you bring Pat Fitzgerald, who is a fiery guy. He's not afraid to set high expectations for himself, for the program. Again, it's just like, it's something as simple as like the Michigan game matters a lot more than all the other ones on the schedule. It's something I think the fans have really connected with. I think he's won over the fans up to this point. I think as far as the expectations, what the energy is around the program right now, I mean, the hope is that you get to 6 wins. You can get back to a bowl game for the first time since 2021. It's been 4 years in a row of pretty bad football, but I think there's a level of understanding that this might take a while for this vision to really get into place, and where you can get to being maybe a 9-win team, being a CFP contender. So this is looked at like a rebuilding year to me, but I'm very curious. It's so hard to gauge though these days. There's more new players on Michigan State this year than players who are back from last year, so it's so difficult to know.
Yeah, that's and unfortunately, look, every new coach everywhere in America, whether it be Michigan State, whether it be Ole Miss, wherever it is, new coaches have a lot shorter leash on them than they had before. They can all turn around and thank Kurt Signetti for that, because now every fan base, every AD, everybody around the country, every board that helps a football team is looking and going, okay, look what this dude did in year one and year two. He brought a team that had never won 11 games in a season to the CFP. Then next year went out, goes undefeated and wins it. That's your mark. Head coach X, go for it, right?
Well, it's like it's only made worse because MSU was looking for a coach in the same cycle as Indiana hired Kurt Signetti. Like MSU never even really looked in Signetti's direction. You hire Jonathan Smith, and he's out in 2 years. So that goes back to your point. You don't have much time to turn things around. There's no such thing as like a week zero, or not a week zero, a year zero, where you just kind of getting the culture in the place. Like there's going to be results demanded right away. Like if MSU goes 3-9 this year, which I mean, I see plenty of predictions out there that say 2-10, 3-9, 4-8. Like the fan base is already restless enough with how bad the last half decade or so has been post Kenneth Walker. Like you don't get that much time anymore. I think Fitzgerald will certainly get more than at least 3 years because they're paying Jonathan Smith $30 million over the next 5 years to buy him out. So again, there's a financial side to this, but you don't get much time anymore. You just don't.
No, they expect quick results and results quickly, which is probably why Pat Fitzgerald, who, when he was at Northwestern earlier, was pre all of the major NIL, all of the major transfer portal deals going on now, but he went heavy into the portal to bring people into the Michigan State program, right?
Yeah, I mean, 32 transfers coming into the program this year. I think I remember watching like the Big Ten Network does some previews on all the teams. I think it was like third or fourth most in the conference. That isn't what you're going to see year in, year out with Michigan State. He made that pretty clear. That number is largely out of necessity. They had like 45 players leave in the portal. So, you just need bodies in the program. But I mean, I think I remember you go through the starting lineups, like your 22 offensive and defensive starters. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think I project like 13, 14 maybe transfers to be starters for Michigan State this year.
That's a key. I mean, look, the portal has become as important to college football coaches as high school recruiting has. And you mentioned that you don't think Fitzgerald will be going as deep into the portal in coming years. Does he want to build the program based on getting kids out of high school and having them for 3 or 4 years? Is he still kind of in that old school mentality?
Yeah, I mean, like he's still going to adapt. Like I'm sure you'll still see MSU in that probably 15, 10 to 15 player range in the transfer portal. Probably next offseason and the year after that. But he wants to prioritize high school recruiting and really more specifically retaining players, because that is so tough to do. I mean, MSU's had trouble retaining some of their top talent. You lose Nick Marsh to Indiana, like Keon Coleman, transferred from Michigan State to Florida State. I mean, he wasn't a starter at Michigan State, but Sam Levitt is a Heisman candidate. He was here. Again, he kind of left because of a coaching change and this and that, but you got to hold on to your top players. And part of this has to do with MSU improving their NIL situation. They're probably middle of the pack in the Big Ten, maybe probably in that 12th or 13th in the Big Ten range. I'd say right now you got to get that better if you want to be a really competitive team, I think, in that conference. They're hopeful that the new AD is going to do that. But yeah, I think you're definitely going to see Pat Fitzgerald be a little lean more towards that old school side thing where we are going to retain players. We are going to prioritize high school recruiting, but it's not going to be a total dinosaur look where you kind of like Dabo Sweeney for a while at Clemson, where you just outright refuse to use the portal.
Yeah, I don't think that's a winning formula for any coach these days. You can ignore it, but you ignore it at your own peril and may, have a factor in how long you stay in the position that you're in. Looking at this Michigan State offense, how would you say, I remember those Pat Fitzgerald offenses at Northwestern, and it was let's just put it mildly, it was grounded pound. We want to run the ball. We're going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And then, you know what? We're going to run the ball some more. Same kind of mentality you think he's bringing to this one, or a little more open, just based on how football has changed?
You're going to see this team prioritize running the ball. And I think largely a big reason for that is just simply personnel. They have a really deep running back room. They have 4 guys who they can give carries to this year. Most notably, UConn transfer Cam Edwards, 1,240 yards, I believe it was, 15 touchdowns at UConn last year. Again, playing mostly group of 6 teams, but he averages, I think you go look at his stats, it's like 4.6, 4.7 yards a carry in his career with a UConn offensive line against Power 4 opponents. So you're feeling pretty good about there. You've got Jazz Patterson from Iowa, who was the Hawkeyes' second running back last year. You've got Marvis Parrish, who was the RB1 at Western Kentucky last year, and they were able to hold on to Brandon Tullis, who was their second running back for a good portion of the 2025 season. So you're going to have plenty. You're going to have every carry that MSU has this year, every running back, time they hand it off to the running back, it should be someone with pretty fresh legs, I would say. And the offensive line, it should be better. One of their big gets was another UConn guy, Ben Morosky. If you like PFF grades, not everyone does, but he had the 5th highest run blocking grade in the FBS among offensive tackles last year. Seems like they're going to move Connor Moore to left guard. He was the right tackle last year, but he was generally a pretty decent run blocker for Michigan State last year. Got Trent Fraley at center. He was the FCS Remington Award winner last year, so that's a pretty good get as well. You got Nick Sharp at right guard as well, South Carolina transfer. I think they like him a lot as well. So offensive line has been a big reason MSU has fallen off in recent years has been offensive line play is pretty much cratered. That's what I think you're going to see MSU. You're probably not going to talk about like an elite offensive line for Michigan State, but it's going to be better this year. I feel pretty confident about that. But yes, to your point, I think you're going to see them run the ball quite a bit this year.
Yeah, that would seem to be like a Pat Fitzgerald's stamp on things is to run the football. When you take a look at the schedule, getting to open on that Friday, is that something that helps Michigan State? Is it nice just to, get that spotlight a little bit on that Friday of the first, full week of college football?
Yeah, I like them playing on a Friday. It's a little unique tradition that they have. That's one of the things they do. They usually week 1 is almost always a Friday night game at Spartan Stadium. Selfishly, I like it because then I'm able to watch the full slate of games the next day. But it's just a nice little thing. They stripe the stadium where you have sections that one section's green, one section is white. It's a fun little thing that they do. And I mean, Toledo for a week 1 opponent is pretty interesting. They have a new coach, but they've generally been one of the best football programs in the MAC. So I mean, that's a tricky MAC opponent to put on your schedule. So I don't want to say Toledo's going to go out there and win, but it's not necessarily a gimme, I'd say, for Michigan State.
Right. That's not a game you just throw your hats on the field and go, okay, look, starters, all you got to give me is a quarter and a half, and then you take the rest of the day off. They will put up a fight there at Toledo. Looking to the other side of the football on the defensive side, Michigan State had some issues last year. Teams were able to kind of run at will on them. Have they addressed those needs in the portal to become a little better, against both phases, the run and the pass?
Yeah, the defense is interesting. They actually got a lot better as the year went on last season. They were able to keep MSU in some games against, again, there were some moments where they just couldn't hold on at the end. Like they should have won at Minnesota, but they allowed Minnesota to tie the game up with like 15 seconds left on a touchdown drive. Couldn't hold on against Iowa, but they got better as the year went on. Part of it coincided with their defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi, moving from the press box to the sideline. He almost looked like the head coach at times last season. Like the television program would show him more often than they'd show Jonathan Smith because he was the only one showing emotion out there. He was good television. But the defense did get better. But what's interesting about this defense is I like the starting lineup. Like I like the starting 11. There's no one who truly concerns me as this is an obvious weak link out there with the starting lineup. But the depth is a big concern for me. But the corners they addressed a lot in the portal. They got Charles Brantley back. He was probably one of their best defensive players in 2024. He goes to Miami for a year, doesn't really play. Maybe he gets hurt. Maybe he got passed on the depth chart. But either way, he thrived at Michigan State in 2024. They got him back from the portal. They were able to hold on to Jordan Hall, who is just straight up their best player. Again, he's playing for his 3rd head coach in 4 seasons with the program. So, I mean, In this day and age, when you can leave really whenever you want, no one really blames you. Hat tip to him for staying loyal. And they also got Trey Bell at corner. He was a solid starter at Iowa State last year. Overall, I feel good about the defense. I like that they held on to Rossi, retained him as the defensive coordinator, but if some injuries start piling up, I am going to get a little bit worried for sure.
If you're looking at this game, if I'm a Michigan State fan looking at this game next Friday night, give me two things that you want to see to know the season will probably head in the right direction.
Well, first of all, you got to be able to run the ball. Toledo is a tricky MAC opponent, but they are a MAC opponent. When you're playing these bye games, where you're playing a team where you're paying a team, things like they're playing Toledo like $1.3 million to go play you. You got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to dominate in the trenches a little bit. If you're not running the ball in Toledo, how are you going to run the ball on Notre Dame a few weeks later? How are you going to run the ball on Michigan? That's always the big thing I look for during these supposed easy games. And secondly, I mean, it's just, do you look more athletic as well? I mean, when you're a Big Ten team, you should have better athletes. Are your corners easily winning on defense? Are your receivers consistently getting separation? Those are kind of the two big things I tend to look for in those. Generally, in week one, you're playing an easier opponent. That's kind of what I look for the most.
Yeah, that would seem to be one of the things you want to keep an eye on. Jacob Konstaninka, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. That was great insight on Michigan State. We appreciate your time. Enjoy this first weekend of college football. Nothing for you to watch on Saturday, so you can sit home and kind of catch some games, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, what's the first game? TCU, North Carolina. I mean, Belichick. Yeah. Belichick's always good TV, especially with how crazy that's been. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a fun Saturday to watch some college football. And thank God college football is back. Jacob Konstaninka, thank you so much for your time. Jacob is the MSU beat writer, Michigan State Spartans beat writer on SI. Check him out, get some great content and follow the Spartans if you are a Spartan fan. Really appreciate it, Jacob. We're going to take a quick break here on the Sports IQ, but we'll be back with more right after this.
I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt, and that's because I have a remedy. Hi, I'm the tax doctor, and if you're having any of these tax issues, call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems, and the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now. Call 833-789-3068.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
877-927-3380. 877-927-3380. That's 877-927-3380.
Welcome back here. Okay, it's that time again. You know what I'm about to say. Producer Tony, college football guru, the guy eats, lives, sleeps, drinks college football. Second year that he has done his preseason top 25, and we were up to now number 4 on the list. Producer Tony, who is the number 4, the 4th best team in the country going into this season?
4th best team. It's not going to be much of a surprise. It's a team very near and dear to my heart and my skin. We're going with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Picking Notre Dame to be the 4th best team in the country. Look, Larry, this is a team that brings back a ton on defense. They were good last year. They have a chance to be even better defensively last year. They've got one of the best. Leonard Moore is probably the best cornerback in the nation. He may be the best cornerback to come out in the last 10 years. He's going to be a surefire top of the first round draft pick for the NFL when he comes out after this season. They've got a lot of great pieces in place. They could have been higher if either Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price had decided to stay in school, but having to replace all that production just has me scratching my head. I know last week we talked to Eric Hansen, and he said the running backs in that room with the offensive line looked like they could be even better this year. I just find that hard to believe because those two guys were outstanding. Anytime they touched the ball, there was a chance it could go to the house. And I just don't know if you're going to have that explosiveness with this year's crop of running backs.
Yeah, it is. But it's amazing what they have done there at Notre Dame. And talk about the quarterback as well, having the fantastic year as a redshirt freshman. And what do you expect out of him here in 2026?
Yeah, CJ Carr could be the catalyst that gets them over the top. They've helped out the wide receiver room, which needed it. The last 4 or 5 years, Notre Dame's wide receiver group has not been among the best in the country. They picked up 2 transfers from Ohio State. Both have looked good in the preseason. Both give them some speed and some agility on the outside, which they've been lacking. Tight ends, they always have a ton of tight ends, so no worry there. Jaden Greathouse, if he's healthy, he's a great option in the slot or as a number 2 receiver. Remember, he was one that caught the touchdown pass that tied the game against Penn State in the playoffs 2 years ago. So if those guys can do what they need to do offensively and Carr continues his growth and stays healthy, the offensive line is solid. Yeah, they lost Matty Augustine, who was going to start at right tackle, but they're going to get him back at some point. Luckily, there was plenty of depth along that offensive line, so they should be able to keep it going. And, the key thing, Larry, for this team is going to be the schedule and how they handle the schedule.
I needed to filibuster there for a minute because you are so far ahead of me in Notre Dame details. I had to look something up. And so thank you for giving me that answer, that 40 seconds. I needed that much time to bring this up. Back on September 7th, 2024, you know what happened? Notre Dame lost at home to Northern Illinois. And I'm telling you, I thought the sky was falling. And I'm not even going to say your reaction because I recall it very well, the texting we were going back and forth. But I bring that up to say this. Since then, Notre Dame is 23-3 with the only 3 losses to playoff teams, to Ohio State in the title game in 2024. And last year to start the season, Miami and Texas A&M both again went to the playoffs. Miami all the way to the title game. So my goodness, I don't know if there's anybody in the country with a record, Indiana, since they went undefeated and won it all last year, that could say that. This is a team that has taken care of business, and really that was a low point, and they've done nothing but excel since then.
Yeah, and missing out in the playoffs last year. Look, they've titled this the Revenge Tour for 2024, the players, or 2026. So we'll have to see if that happens, but the schedule is kind of quirky. Now they open up Labor Day weekend against the Badgers in Lambeau, so it's not a home game. It's going to be played there in Green Bay. A little bit different atmosphere. We'll have to see how that plays out. And Notre Dame does have, for as good as coach as Marcus Freeman has been, the first 3 games of the season tend to be a little exciting. With, like you said, they lost to Northern Illinois in there. They had a couple of other head scratchers, early losses when he was there. So got to get past that. The season will come down to BYU in Provo and Miami at home on November 7th. Got to win one of those 2 because I'm telling you, lose both of them, and the committee will find a way to leave a 10-2 Notre Dame out of the playoff again.
Yeah, another one I'm concerned about also is a game against Michigan State that we've been talking about. The Spartans are a team that's we don't know a lot about, but Pat Fitzgerald, a very good coach. Also, SMU later on in November, I think, is one of those games that could be troublesome.
Yeah, there's a couple of trap games in there. You hope that they hold serve in those. This is a team. Everybody complains about the schedule. No, Notre Dame gets this, Notre Dame that. Look, you schedule who you can schedule, play who you can play. Wisconsin historically has been a really good program. So the fact they were down or might be down, there's no way to know that. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But I think that this is a team that is strong enough, especially defense. I think this defense could be really special this year. They can really do some damage on the defensive side. It could be exciting to watch.
All right. Notre Dame at number 4. We will count them down. Number 3 come up tomorrow, all the way to number 1 on Friday. Tony, thanks so much. Thanks to you for stopping by. I appreciate our guests as well. Make this a fantastic Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow here in the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.